Hello everyone, it's Jozu here and welcome back to my series where we'll be talking about top 10 champions from a single faction. In this video I will be talking about the champions who I think are the strongest from the Sacred Order faction. So let's start. We're gonna include champions from Legendary Rarity, Epic, Rare champions, Uncommons and Commons. But looking at these, I'll just give an honorable mention to Armiger, pretty decent champion. Other than that, in the rare department, actually nobody that I think is of any use, to be honest. Even Atel is pretty bad, and let's start with some of the epic champions. The first epic champion that I'll be talking about is gonna be Godseeker Aniri. She's actually one of the best support champions from epics or at all in the game because of her A2 and A3. A2 quest for meaning, attacks all enemies, heals all allies by 15% of their max HP, then decreases the duration of all buffs on enemies by 1 turn and increases the duration of all buffs on allies by 1 turn. All of that on a 3-turn cooldown. Next, her A3 revives that ally with 50%, then fills their turn meter by 50% and resets the cooldown on all of their skills. So a pretty good ability. Also her passive increases the amount of healing allies receive by 10%, but this is a much useful part of her ability. It is that she has the chance to place a revive revive on death, actually not a chance, but she always places it if an ally is about to get killed by a fatal hit. So pretty amazing champion, can be used in a lot of parts of the game. Next up, I'm gonna go ahead and say Deacon Armstrong, one of the best control champions, support type champions completely in the game. His aura increases ally speed in all battles by 19%. His A3 on a 3-turn cooldown fills the turn meter of all allies by 15% and decreases turn meter of all enemies by 15%, and then grants an extra turn. And when he grants an extra turn, you can use his A2 on a 3-turn cooldown that has a 100% chance of placing 60% decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. His A1 places a leech, or has a chance to place a leech. Looking at the other champions, I would say maybe honorable mentions would be Fanax and maybe Cardinal, in my opinion at least. But yeah, also Inquisitor Shmuel has his places in the game, but that would be my only 2 choices in epic rarity, so Deacon Armstrong and Godseeker Aniri. Now for the legendaries, I'm gonna go ahead and say Astrolon. I'm so sad that I didn't go for his fusion, but his most notable part of the kit is his A3, where he removes all buffs from targets under Veil and Perfect Veil, and then places Weaken on all enemies who have Veil or Perfect Veil removed, then attacks all enemies and has a 100% chance of placing stun debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. Amazing kit. Next one, which I think is the strongest champion in this faction, from non-voids, is gonna be Martyr. So she helped me progress a lot in the game because I pulled her not early, but like she was my 2nd legendary, and I used her for pretty much everything in the game, even arena. A1 has a chance of placing increased defense, hits super hard. A2 increased defense and counterattack on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown, and this attack has chance to provoke, actually places a provoke debuff and places a decreased attack debuff for 2 turns on all enemies. Great aura as well. Defensive aura increases ally defense in all battles by 33%. Next champion from this faction is who I think is actually one of the best champions in the game completely, and that's gonna be Cardiel. Let's take a look at his kit. Attacks 1 enemy, heals all allies by 7.5% of their max HP, places a True Fear debuff for 1 turn on targets from these factions. His A2 cleanse, and then place block debuffs and revive of that on all allies, and that revive on that cannot be removed. That's all on 3-turn cooldown, and probably the strongest ally attack ability in the game. Places a 30% increased crit rate and crit damage on all allies, and teams up with all of them to attack one enemy, and then decrease the cooldown of this skill by 1 turn if an enemy is killed from this attack, which is almost always the case. All of that on 4 turn cooldown. Increase ally speed in all battles by 19%. What a champion. Now we have Venus. Venus, super underrated but very good champion. A1, throwing poisons on enemies. A2, 100% chance of placing decreased speed and decreased defense, and 25% weaken debuff on, for 2 turns. And her A3, burning passion, 100% chance of placing HP burn on all enemies. She has some pairings with her partner Cupidus, which I'm gonna include right now. Cupidus had a recent rework and he's hitting like a truck. His A1 is AoE, damage increases by 15% if the target has any debuffs. Then AoE again, 75%, booked up to 100% chance of placing HP burn debuffs. And then A3, flame out, places a 50% increased attack on this champion, then attacks one enemy, and has a 50% chance of placing HP burn debuff on all enemies for 2 turns if this attack kills an enemy. This debuff cannot be resisted. So you see, always gonna counter attack if the Venus is on the same team, but this part is from the punishing partner attacks, inflict 25% more damage, so he hits super hard. Next champion is gonna be Sir Nick, pretty strong HP based champion, has a chance of placing freeze, pretty hard hitting ability. Then AoE that places shield buff on all allies, and shield is based on the damage inflicted, and this ability on a 4 turn cooldown places the unkillable and a 50% continuous heal buff on all allies. Great aura as well, ally HP in all battles by 33%. And let's calculate, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have 2 more places. One of these is gonna be Archbishop Pintroy. Pretty good champion, mostly because of this ability. On a 3 turn cooldown, he places 100% heal reduction, debuff on all enemies, increase accuracy on all allies, and 100% chance of placing block buffs on all enemies for 2 turns. Also heals a lot, all of this on a 4 turn cooldown. So let's calculate again. This is 1, this is the second one, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and we have 2 epics, 8 and 9. And the last champion from this faction, who am I gonna pick? I do like Corvus, some poisons and stuff, but I'm actually gonna go with Errol. He was recently reworked. I mean, he hits super hard, kind of one-dimensional, but still maybe nothing to sleep on. Attacks all enemies 2 times, has a 30% chance of inflicting critical hits, so you can build him pretty easily with 70% crit rate. Each hit will ignore 15% of the target's defense. His A3 attacks one enemy, removes all debuff from this champion and steals all buff from the target before attacking, and has a extra 30% chance of inflicting crit rate. Grants an extra turn if the target is killed on a 3 turn cooldown. Pretty hard hitting ability, and attacks one enemy, pretty one-dimensional, but yeah, that's gonna be it for this faction. When it comes to ranking these champions, I'm gonna go ahead and say Errol would be 10th place. Then I would put Sir Nicholas on the 9th place, maybe Astrolon 8th place. Then I would put Archbishop Pintroy 7th. 6th is gonna be Cupidus. Then 5th place I'm gonna go with Godseeker Aniri. 4th place is gonna be Deacon Armstrong. 3rd place is gonna be Venus. 2nd place is gonna be Martyr, and the 1st place, aka the strongest champion in this faction, I'm gonna go ahead and say Cardiel. So let me know in the comments below, who do you think is the strongest champion in this faction, and who would be in your top 10 list. Until next time, see you guys, bye.